Just a bit of tipping. Feeling one side of the body stretching, the other side contracting. And then just leaning over each leg, so inclining forwards. And then turning towards the other knee. So you should be able to kiss the knee. Okay. And now let's just pull. And so each hand is pulling and each hand is being pulled. So we just want to feel the equilibrium. So both hands are moving and both hands are being moved. And there's a balance. So there's energy. Wherever there's an equilibrium, there will be energy. Yeah, so if this stick was suddenly to break, your hands would go flying away from each other. And then just pushing the stick. It can be really gentle. And pulling once more. and pushing once more. Okay, great. So let's stand up now. So the lower back, plumb erect. So the sacrum is your plumb, your spine is the line. So we need a mind that can just settle in the sacrum. It's like the equivalent of the Dantian, really. So when the mind is in the Dantian properly, then the Dantian and the sacrum, they're almost one thing, because the Dantian will just naturally draw back towards the sacrum. So it's interesting, if I'm working with a student and I put my hand on their sacrum, then I just get them to lean into me so I'm supporting them. Then their belly naturally just contracts and draws in towards the sacrum. So just feeling the sacrum just hanging down. So that's like your sort of background reference point. It's just a heavy sacrum. And now let's just try just the first warm-up exercise, but just with that heavy sacrum. So it's just hanging. So your mind just has to be able to just be quiet and just settle in one place without getting distracted. And when you look at it, you realize that if your mind isn't in the Dantian sacrum area, then you're tense. There'll be tension in your shoulders and the neck and the feet. So if you want to be relaxed, you have to learn how to just put a quiet mind in the Dantian sacrum. So when you're relaxed, your sacrum is sinking unimpeded. And all of this area, the hips, sacroiliacs, is just trying to open up to allow the sacrum this feeling of descent. And then just the second one. So now just moving the weight, moving the sacrum from leg to leg, still keeping it hanging. Yeah, so this is tricky, to keep the sacrum feeling relaxed and just hanging down as you're moving it. And then the third one. So pivoting on the ball of the foot. Again, just keep the mind in the sacrum. It will tend to want to go anywhere but. So it's quite an achievement to keep it in the sacrum. So we're used to having a mind that if it's not entertained, it will try and entertain itself by chatting away to itself. So we just want to keep it in the sacrum, hanging down. Good. And now just back to riding horse again. And again, with this mind in the sacrum really heavy. And just feel now that when your sacrum is just allowed just a free vertical descent from where it is, to you, it will feel like it's drifting forwards as it drops. And what that will do is tend to give the energy coming from your belly and your heart a lift. Okay. And now let's just bounce. So when the sacrum is heavy, it will tend to straighten out and lengthen the lumbar spine. And that will naturally draw in the belly. And then just alternating the arms. So your sacrum is still trying to just bounce up and down, But now the alternating arms are pulling you side to side a little bit and also turning you a little bit. So just feel the conflict, if you like, between what this heavy sacrum is doing and what the arms are wanting to happen. And then just into this one where we circle. Yeah, so just let your legs actively draw you down. You're not just relaxing them so that you can be pulled down by gravity. The legs are actually bending in order to pull you towards the ground. And then just changing direction. And then just winding it down. And then just back to riding horse for a sec. So again, just heavy sacrum. That should just be the go-to place for the mind, especially when you're using your body. And when you're meditating, it would be more the dantian. When you're moving or standing, you just really want to feel the sacrum just hanging down through you. So feel the equilibrium. Feel your body being pulled by gravity And just feel gravity as an energy, so as a flow. So there's like a flow down through my body. And then my legs are keeping me up. So my legs are pushing me up. So what I want is to feel that as an infinite flow, an endless flow as well. I don't want to just feel as though my legs have just locked out in order to keep me at this position. My legs are endlessly straightening in order to balance the endless bending which they're having to endure because of my weight, because of gravity. So I want an equilibrium. I want to be bending my legs and straightening my legs at the same time. I haven't just locked in position. I haven't frozen. So the longer you hold it, the more you tend to feel the up as basically just being a flow of energy from the ground, as though something is coming from the ground that is balancing the pull of the ground. So the ground is pushing me, the ground is pulling me. So this is what we mean by listening. It's really just opening up to energy, feeling energy. Okay, and now let's just try the one where we just push backwards and forwards, but really feeling Newton's third law of motion. So if I want my body to move backwards, then I have to apply a force in that direction. So now just using the straightening of the legs. So I'm going to straighten my front leg, and that's going to push my body backwards. So I'm pushing in one direction and my body is moving in the other. So now I'm pushing forwards with my leg and my body is moving back. And now I'm pushing back with this leg and my body is moving forwards. So I just want to really relax so that I can feel the pushes as being like a flow of energy. So I'm just pushing the ground that way, just gently enough or just strong enough to get a flow backwards. So I don't want to just push. I don't want to use force in order to move a heavy object. I'm using a gentle push to get a flow of energy. And then if my mind is alive and active enough, then that energy will take my body. So I want to develop a body that will respond to energy, that will feel energy and respond to it. Now I push back, I squeeze. This is where we use the word squeeze. So you're just using just enough strength to squeeze a flow of energy through the body, which then my body catches it, my mind catches it, and then it will move me. But I could quite easily not catch it, and then it wouldn't move me. Yeah, so it's very much of the mind energy. You know, the right mind, not the thinking mind. If you're thinking, then you just won't catch it because, you know, thinking is all to do, you know, it just takes too long and it's all to do with doubt and words and all things that are useless when it comes to energy. So I squeeze in that direction and almost by magic, my body starts flowing back, and then I squeeze in this direction and I come forwards. So in order to catch the energy and ride it, I have to do something with my heart. My heart has to weigh. It has to sort of be willing, yeah? So when the heart is willing, then you'll just live in the world of energy. When the heart is skeptical or depressed, then you just live in a world dominated by forces and hardness. So I push and ooh, something just flows forwards and I just go with it. Yeah, so physically, I just have to make sure that I just remain sinking all the time. Because if I don't, then the effort that I'm making will bring me up, and then there won't be any energy either, or there will be, but it will just be over very quickly. So by staying sunk, I'm just keeping the lid on. And again, part of your mind with the sacrum just hanging heavily through that. That just maintains like a neutrality. And now let's change legs. And the same thing. So just I squeeze myself back by pushing forwards. I squeeze myself forwards by pushing back. And just notice that when you start to feel the energy and get into the energy, it will tend to distract you from the heavy sacrum. Yeah, so there's always a play between those. There's like a trade-off. If you're always completely in the sacrum, then there just won't really be any energy. It'll just be too neutral. So there's a balance between sort of almost conflicting realities. So the heavy sacrum is really just bum in. Remember that thing John said to me? You know, once he said, I've had over 10,000 students in my time. And the only thing I ever really wanted was for them to get their bum in. So it's obviously the most important thing You know, the principle that is Tai Chi in a nutshell, really. Because as soon as my bum goes out, as soon as I get curvature in my lower back, or, you know, too much curvature, then the ego starts to form. And then you lose the world and you gain a self. So we empty of self in order to fill with world. Okay, now let's try again with the left foot forwards, but now pulling with the legs. So instead of squeezing the ground back in order to move myself forwards, I'm going to pull the ground back with my front foot. So I just draw, I pull myself forwards, and then I pull with the back leg. Yeah. So I'm using the hamstring to bend the leg. And then as my weight comes into the leg, the quad kicks in to support me. So the hamstring is the active muscle and the quad is the passive muscle. So I pull, and you can just, we want to feel the strength going from one side of the leg to the other. So from the back to the front, I'm using the back of the leg to bend it. And then as I come into the heel, I'm using the front of the leg to stop myself from falling even further. So pulling and supporting, moving. And just feel when you pull, you tend to pull from the toes, like the toes are trying to grip into the ground. And then as the weight comes into the leg, it fills up the heel. So toes, and then going into the heel, and toes going into the heel. And then just begin to feel the empty leg. So I'm coming into my back leg now. So I'm pulling with my toes, and then I'm settling into the heel. And then I really just straighten this leg to drive myself into this heel even more. So it's almost like at the end, I've got more than 100% of my weight in the heel, because I've got my body weight plus this leg trying to drive me down even more. So as one leg bends to its maximum, the other leg is straightening to its maximum, and both of those are quite active. And then let's try a little bit with the other foot. So just pulling yourself forwards and then settling into the heel. Pulling yourself back, settling into the heel. Pulling with the hamstrings, supporting with the quads. Pulling with the hamstrings, supporting with the quads. And then just straightening the leg. So as this quad becomes a passive support, this quad is trying its best to really straighten this leg. So there's always this play between passive and active. All the time, the sacrum hanging heavily. Sacroiliac's relaxed. Yeah, so as I straighten this leg to get myself in this leg, I'm also extending the toes, and then the toes have sort of power when they curl up. So we're just trying to really just extend the leg as much as you can so that when you flex it, when you bend it, there's just more power in that action. So really straighten, and then when I bend it, it does something. Okay. And now let's bring it back to riding horse again. It's a heavy sacrum. So empty of self. So this real feeling that you are what you see. Okay, now let's try just stepping. So just coming into the foot. So what we want to feel is the difference between the two sides. So one side is filling, one side is emptying, obviously. But also to feel the two sides of the full leg. I want that real feeling that my fullness is really in the outside of this leg. And the inside is empty. The inside is of this leg, if you like. So a real feeling that I'm drifting outwards. And it's that empties this leg and allows me to lift it off the ground. Yeah. So here, there has to be a flow of mind in this direction in order to empty this side of my body. It's not enough just to put the weight in the leg. My mind has to be moving in that direction continuously. So again, this is very much an equilibrium. So when you lift the leg off, when you just pick the leg up, there's always a tendency for it to want to go down, yeah? And for your weight to want to go back into it. And so in order to keep it suspended in as relaxed a way as possible, I have to really feel like I'm going to fall in this direction, so that this can come up without me having to lock up here in order to hold it in position, and without me constantly jostling the ground to stop myself from doing this. Yeah. So it really feels like I'm sort of poised on a knife's edge, like a coin that's just balanced on its edge. So that, again, there's an equilibrium between me falling that way and me falling this way into the dull leg. So the higher I want to bring this leg, the more I have to extend out in this direction with my mind. And that's just really a mind that's just producing a flow of energy. So it's the intending mind that's reaching out. So my leg is coming up, but my energy is flowing in that direction, out from my spine. And all the time I'm just trying to make sure that nothing freezes. So it should feel like it's going to lose its balance all the time. So it really is poised. So it's full of energy, but it's a really delicate, trembly energy. Okay, now let's step with it. So just toes down first, because we're going to be pulling with the leg. So I put my toes down, I pull myself into the leg, and then I just step up with this leg. And then I step back with the leg that's just pulled up, pull myself back into it, and then I step up with this leg, and then I step back. So we're putting the toes down first so that we can pull ourselves forwards. Now, as you pull yourself forwards, just feel the weight going into the heel. And the other leg just pops up. And then step with that leg. So one. Pulling with the toes, supporting from the heel. Bring this foot up. Pulling with the toes, supporting from the heel. Pulling with the toes, supporting from the heel. So just feel how the different mood associated with pulling with the foot. So the toes have to extend, so there has to be this feeling of something almost emanating from the spine. And then when they curl up, it's like you're pulling into yourself. So your belly is tightening. And then as you settle into the heel, it just becomes very vertical. So this is really sort of sacrum heavy. And you're back in sort of meditation pose, if you like. And then here, it's got these sort of extensions. And then you pull, you gather those in. And then it's just the sacrum hanging down through the heel. So there's a lot of movement, not just in the body, but within the emotions, if you like, within your feelings, the spirit. The spirit is changing your sort of energetic configuration. So here, this is really reaching out and then gathering in. And then this is just settling with aplomb, with real poise and sobriety. So just a heavy sacrum now just hanging down through my heel. And now let's try some with the other foot. Just do the normal stepping one that we do, where we just stepping with the right foot now. So again, I just let my sacrum drop down into the heel, through the heel, into the ground. I step, toes down first, pulling, and then just settling into the heel. And now just straightening the leg, so letting yourself sort of bounce out of the heel to throw yourself back into this foot, settling into the heel again, and then just bringing this foot up, and then step back with it. So I'm pulling with my right leg, and then I'm straightening my right leg, but it's more like a bounce. So I pull, and I bounce. So I have to be really careful that when I straighten a leg, it doesn't crunch this area up. It doesn't compress my lower back. So what I want to do is I pull myself here. That will stretch my lower back, so that's great. And then here, I just let the heel fill up, and then I just feel the energy. I feel the energy just wanting to bounce back, and I let that take me. So again, instead of me being pushed by the leg, there's still a sense that I'm being drawn by the energy. So it will still maintain a stretching in this area. So here I'm physically pulling myself, and then the energy manifests, and it's that draws me forwards, but it's being generated in the leg. So it's really, as my heel fills up, as my heel finishes filling, so I'm in the heel, but it's still going into the heel. The energy is already, like the trampoline, as you sink down into the trampoline, even before you've reached your lowest level, the trampoline is already pushing you back up. Yeah? So this is the feeling here. I'm already being pushed up. The energy is already manifesting. And at some point, it will be strong enough to take my body if I let it. So the energy is flowing back, and I go with it. Yeah, so the enemy all the time is like force and hardness. So I just want to really be always going for energy and softness. And the test is really, can the energy that's moving you come up into the upper body? So as I'm sinking into this leg and this leg is bringing the energy up, can I get it into this hand? Because then this region across your lower back has to remain really open. So I'm sinking into the leg and the energy is coming up and ooh. Yeah, so if I compress too heavily into the foot, or if there's like a sort of an openness that's maintained in the mind, if my mind sort of closes off into this heavy sinking, then it will just close the passageway and the energy won't be able to come up. So as I go back, my spirit has to maintain an openness in the body so that the energy can flow up from the ground. Yeah, so you need a mind that can be with both the weight and the energy. So it can be with the physical and it can be with the energetic. Yeah, but it's not a sort of, it's much more like the yin yang. So the physical always has an element of energy about it. Otherwise, the energy and the physical are just too different, and they can't really mix. So as I'm sinking into this foot, it's still got a feeling of lightness, despite the heaviness, and it's that enables it to just change from yin to yang. So the heavy body sinking is yin, and the light energy rising is yang. So each contains a little bit of the other. So it's just keeping balance. You're just using the mind to just be honest with yourself, really, and just be constantly scanning the system. Yeah, so in the same way that you can look at someone else doing it, and often, it's quite clear where they're getting it wrong, and you can always offer like a useful suggestion or put your hands on and make a physical correction. Then we just have to be able to do that with ourselves. So they say that only a teacher can correct you. And so in the absence of a teacher, you just have to turn yourself into that person that's just able to stand back and just observe. Just see what's going on. And you can, any like mirrors are great. Videoing yourself and then watching it back. John used to say, something like in Blakeney, when we'd be sort of working and, the energy was up and we'd be flying everywhere. And John, sometimes he would just say, he'd just shake his head and say, Dr. Chi could just come into the room now. Just see what we're doing. Just say a few words and everything would change. Yeah? Because he just had that ability to see the thing that needs to be seen, to see the thing that you're avoiding looking at, because there is always that part. Okay, so now let's just riding horse again. And again, just heavy sacrum. And it has to be really it has to come from relaxation. If you just drive yourself down, then it's not the same, it's the wrong mind. Okay, so now let's just finish with 15 minutes meditation. So